Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow morning. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you are watching the live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. My guest for this week is Thaheer Mullins MBA and Senior Associate at Savant. He also started in marketing and pivoted into investments. Actually, what I'm told is he's recently moved from Senior Associate to Principal. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, not principal, it's partner. But thank you very much for that. But it's very new, so I haven't really told anybody. So I guess there's no time like the present.
Thanks for joining us today. Let's jump straight into the meat. Tell us your story, where you come from, and even outside of work. Who is Thaheer Mullins? Give us that backstory.
Okay, awesome. So up until very recently, in fact, I actually lived on the Cape Flats for quite a long time. Even when I started at Savant, I was still on the Cape Flats. A lot of that is, I think about the way people deal with trauma. So my trauma of growing up like without money is I didn't want to spend money. So why am I going to pay somebody else? But then, you get married and, you can't make the same decisions anymore. But started, out on the Cape Flats. I was very fortunate that, I got exposed to fencing at a very young age, and I ended up being really good at that. And I was also quite studious, so I managed to get a scholarship to go to Bishops. It's a very, very upmarket school in South Africa, in Cape Town. And then from there, I went to UCT. Studied. My undergrad was in the social sciences, and I did English literature and sociology, and I've even got a BA honors degree in English studies. But after graduating, I went into the world of work. And the first job that I got was at Shell. They had an outsourced operation, so I speak Afrikaans. So they were like, "Okay, cool, we'll teach you Dutch, and then you're gonna hop on the phone and talk to our Dutch clients." And after doing that for a bit, I wanted to move up, and I was looking at the jobs portal, and I realized that I couldn't actually do any of the things in the organization that interested me, because there was this big gap between what I had studied and what I had done, which was call center work and being a waiter. And then, the skills gap, and then what the requirements of those jobs were. So I went back and I did marketing. And then after that, interned a bit, did what I needed to sort of move forward a little bit, did a lot of company hopping, job hopping to, get those incremental increases along the way. But really wanted to do a lot more sort of strategic work and work a lot more with numbers. And I found that I was getting pigeonholed because of my qualifications and my previous experience. So I was still being required to write a lot. And I'm like, no, I can do a lot more on the numbers, and I can do a lot more. I can contribute strategically. But I was really struggling to get out of that. And so I thought the MBA would be a good opportunity to do that. And so I applied for the MBA full time. Didn't really have a lot of capital, so I went into it only having about half the capital on hand, and I managed to secure funding somewhere in the middle of the year to pay the balance. And so that was really a very interesting journey, and that part of the journey is what actually pivoted me into working with early stage innovative companies. So in that particular program at the Graduate School of Business, that's in the waterfront, as UCT's Graduate School of Business, we had these fixed modules, right? We had core subjects, and then we had these modules that we could select. And I mean, finance was there as a core subject, and then we had a business model innovation and that sort of thing. So there was some interesting subjects there, and you know, I found a real interest in them. So when it came to selecting my modules, my electives, I actually went for things that were in those directions. So I did company valuations. I did what's this other company? I forget the name of the course, but it was basically we had to develop a business plan and actually go and pitch. So I did that, and then you know, I graduated there, and I started at Savant pretty soon after, and I thought, you know, now I'm going to learn from quite a few entrepreneurs, you know, and I'm going to use my skills that I've learned during the MBA to help them. But then at the same time, we're going to launch my own business, and I had a few harebrained schemes. That's and it's quite interesting that despite the MBA, you still have those harebrained schemes. So I did those. Didn't quite work out on the side, and then I actually realized I was having more fun helping entrepreneurs, working with them, and just sort of trying to get them, to help them along the journeys, make sure that they have the right building blocks in place. So that's how I pivoted into entrepreneurship and early stage innovation, and I stayed in the incubator for 4 years. And then I've been in the fund for about 1.5 years now. So I've been with the company for a very long time, before we even had a fund, before we also even had our seed fund. And then our venture fund came later, and you know, we partnered with Sibanye Stillwater as well for a very interesting program, technology commercialization program that we run with them. So there's been a lot along the way, but you know, like I like to look back and I say, like, when I started on my pivotal journey, which was doing the MBA, early stage innovation, startups, and venture capital was not on my radar. So it wasn't there at all. And just along the way, I've just built up this love for it. That it's been fulfilling for me, helping businesses succeed, I think.
So I mean, that's your professional background, amazing story. But you didn't tell us about outside of work, family, sports. What do you do?
Cool. Okay. So I like sport. I don't like to watch sport. So you won't find me in front of the TV, but you might find me on a mountain. You might find me in a swimming pool. Yeah. So weekends I like to hike. Although now I've got a kid now, so that has changed a little bit. So you know, when it comes to sport, I'm mostly in the gym. So that's what keeps me busy. But I like to be outdoors. I've got a bike. I've yet to use it on the mountain. I do appreciate martial arts. I don't do it anymore though. I used to dabble in it quite a bit. So I've done kung fu, capoeira, karate. I tried Muay Thai as well. Wasn't really my thing. Yeah, but that's me.
I tried that as well. Deviated my septum in the process, so I didn't go back.
Oh wow!
but anyways, we just jumping back to. I mean, you mentioned you were pigeonholed a bit, and you pivoted from marketing to investments. You don't see that often, and I assume, or you need to help me here. How do you convince someone, or what did you do to convince them to be able to make that shift? Because most people don't. Most people, they're pigeonholed, so they just go with it. Or what about those people who found their passion like you a little bit later than most?
You know what it is, so I didn't know what my passion was, and I was getting pigeonholed, but I wanted to do more. I knew I wanted to do more things strategically, and I wanted to work with numbers, but I didn't know what that looked like. But I just wanted to do more. So I think my main thing is, when you find yourself in a position where you're going into work and you aren't necessarily happy with what you're doing, or you're not satisfied, or you can't very clearly see your path to that place it is that you want to be in your career, based on where you are. I think that's a time to just rethink, like if you're not willing to work long hours at a moment's notice without saying I want overtime. Like if you're in that position, and I can understand it can be a fairly privileged position for some, but I mean if you're at the point where you don't have the passion and the drive and the love, I think, to do what you do every day, then maybe it's time for you to think about what it is that you want to do. And I don't think the conversation starts with what do I want to do at home, at work. It's more what do I want to do with my life? What is that thing that you want to do? Like, what's your higher purpose, right? I think once you find your higher purpose, and you live that higher purpose every day, and it becomes a part of your work, then you've got it. So it's about, like, if you want to pivot, think about your happiness, think about your everyday, and think about what your higher purpose is, and just try to tie the two together. And maybe you'll get it wrong the first few times you try to pivot. You pivot into one thing and it's not that thing that you wanted, but then you need to keep pivoting until you find the thing that you do.
So definitely there's hope for people who figure things out later on in life.
Yeah, I mean, some people, I've met people that have it all figured out at age 23, right? And, sometimes you think that at age 23, what do they really know? But I've seen it, right? They figured it out. Maybe they haven't explored as much in terms of all the other things, but they've gone into it and they found that one thing that they really, truly love and enjoy, and they've excelled. At very young ages, they've gone all the way.
And good luck to them. You don't have to figure things out.
No,
just very
you don't.
You get to figure it out at 30, you get to figure it out at 40.
I've seen people that have figured it out even later than I have, right? So some people figure it out after they retire. Some people figure it out because they get laid off at age 50 and they're like, oh, what do I do now? And then they go back to, well, this is what I've learned over the years. And at that age, you're really comfortable with yourself and you know what it is that makes you happy. And then you go out and you do that and you make a phenomenal success of it, right? So it's never too late, I'd say.
For anyone who's got any questions for Thaheer, please add it to the comment section now. We'll respond to all of them towards the end. Talk to us a little bit about the venture capital industry. I don't see that many jobs available, but it's an industry that has the potential to make a big impact on the country and the economy. How do people get into the industry, and where's the best place to find out more?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So the industry, it's growing now, right? There are a lot more players now than there were 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I wasn't really looking at things, but I've had a chance to look back, at who was there and what they were doing. But in the last few years alone, so many new players have popped up. So there's new fund managers popping up all the time, and people who previously worked at fund managers now have the requisite experience and skills to be able to go and launch their own funds and that sort of thing. So it is growing. That being said, I've noticed that in the industry, it's a lot about networks, right? So a lot of these jobs aren't being advertised. But there are opportunities where people do advertise. I think if you're very early and you want to break into the industry, you can do it directly or indirectly. So by directly, I mean you can go scour the ocean for VC jobs, VC advertisements, and you're going to compete quite heavily with whoever's coming in now as well, to get those jobs. But they are out there. You can do it that way. You can also network, get into the right circles, go to the startup events, find out who the who the startups are, get close to the startups, find out who the investors are, go to network events, meet the investors, just have a casual chat. I would say, don't even say I'm looking for a job. Say I want to find out more about the industry. Can I have a coffee with you? People are happy to help out, if there's no pressure, right? And in doing so, they learn a lot more about you. And if the opportunity does come up, they can make a recommendation or they can refer you. So I mean, that's one way to do it. The other way is a lot of the experienced VCs that I've seen actually have some, and this is not just in South Africa, it's also globally now. It's quite interesting. They'll start with these corporate investment banks, and then from there they'd move over into VC. So once you've got that those years of experience in corporate banking and corporate finance, you've actually got a bit of a reputation, and you've got experience, and you've got exposure to sort of processes and that sort of thing. So when you've got that right, I think you are probably a little bit more valuable within VC, especially our VC industry right now that is still growing. It's still new, and a lot of the new VCs that we speak to, they're still trying to figure out the structures. They're still trying to figure out ops properly. So if you come with that experience, you can have a phenomenal impact on those businesses, and that will carry you, not just within that business, but if you ever want to start your own thing or go to maybe a larger VC or whatever, it's well worth it. So you can go in directly or indirectly. That's my advice.
No, that's great advice. And I like you say, if everybody's willing to have a coffee, there's not pressure. I'm going to use that line.
Yeah, I mean, that works for anything, right? And even if it's just if you've got a startup and you're looking for investment, if you've got a service or product that you're trying to sell to a potential customer, just say you want to find out more. You're starting out and you want to find out more about the needs and that sort of thing. And it's no pressure. And I promise you'll get in the room. And then when you get in the room, make it a mission to get a contact out of that person in the room for somebody else within that segment that you're trying to target, whether it's VCs, whether it's customers, whether it's investors, employers, whatever.
Great advice. Talk to us a little bit about your MBA experience. Like, what value did you get from it, and who would you recommend should do an MBA? So, for example, like if I'm a CA working in audit, I'm not sure. I don't know if MBA is necessary, or if I'm a CFA working in financial services, do I still need to do an MBA? That kind of thing.
I would say that so the couple of points in terms of the value that I got out of the MBA, right? The one was I had a very diverse group of people on the full-time program that I did. We had people from Poland, India, South America, China, Japan. It was other parts of Africa as well. It was very broad. So I got a lot of and also at various levels in various industries. So I got a lot of learnings from them on modes of operation, ways to think and tackle problems, and about dealing with people especially, right? That was a lot of value that I got there. And then I think the other thing that had tremendous value for me was not necessarily the hard stuff, right? Because you can learn the hard stuff on your own. The thing that gave me tremendous value was the softer side of things. So there's this one course that we have, and everybody complains about it, right? It's called leadership, and they have these themes that you sort of tackle about yourself, but it's academic, but you've got to apply it to your personal life, not your professional life. And so you can put what you want. You can pick and choose what you want to put into your report. I mean, and there are about 12 seeds that we had to focus on. Previous years, it was like 15 seeds that they had to focus on. So you read a body of work around each seed, and then you take it like self-care and that sort of thing. So then you take that and you apply it to your life in an academic context. So it's quite interesting. But as much as you pick and choose what you apply, you also start thinking about other things in the background that you haven't really dealt with, So for me, leadership really helped me come to terms with myself. And once I came to terms with myself, opportunities started opening up in a way that they hadn't before. Because I didn't have that just from doing that course. I did the course and I kept thinking about the things that I spoke about and that I didn't speak about while I was processing what I needed to for that course. And over, I'd say 2-3 years afterwards, I was still going through my process of getting through, those internal conflicts, those things that I highlighted, that I thought about. And once I got through all of those, there's just there's this level of peace that you attain, right? And a sense of self-assurance that you get from being at peace, that knowledge of self that really catapults you into any conversation, into any setting, into anything, So I think in terms of value that I got out of the MBA, I think just that coming to grips with myself and understanding myself, that was the most value that I got out of it.
Okay. And I see you've done some coding courses on Python and SQL, introductory courses.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about doing it, but I wasn't sure if it's worth it. Did it help you, or is it beneficial for people to do introductory courses like that?
I think it's all about learning and exploring for me. I was doing those more because I was quite interested in the data science side of things. It's becoming prevalent, and I wanted to be able to play with data a little bit more. It's just even on the fun side, I think it's very relevant. So that's why I did those courses. So SQL and Python are really helpful for those types of things. It also gives you a better understanding of what's happening in the world around you. We're a tech investor, right? We need to know tech. But you don't need to necessarily know the tech to the level that, you can go out and write an entire computer program on your own, but you need to be able to speak to people in the industry. So I think upskilling yourself on what's happening in any industry, upskilling yourself on what's happening in the world around you, I think it's a good bet. It's a bet on yourself, right? And nobody can take that away from you. If you've learned, I think it was Buffett that said it, but I might be paraphrasing and completely botching this, but this is what I believe that was said, and it makes sense. It's you invest in yourself, right? You learn to communicate better. You learn to process things in a better way. Nobody can ever take that with you. You can't lose that money. It's gonna inevitably lend itself to you being able to earn more, and in earning more, you can do more. That's the way I see it. So yes, Tooways, as a CA, I would recommend that you get stuck in some coding if you can find the time amongst the many hats that you wear.
That is the unfortunate problem, but we'll figure something out. I was going to ask what's next for you, but now you've just got the promotion, so I'm not even going to ask that in terms of what are you seeing for the future. But I'm rather going to ask you, what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Oh, you know what? The one piece of advice I'd give my younger self is do more things that you're uncomfortable with doing. I wasn't really comfortable with this interview, but I did it anyway. Do more things that you're uncomfortable doing, right? So if you only do what you're comfortable with, you'll never be more than what you are now. And those are the wise words from Master Shifu from Kung Fu Panda 3. And it's quite relevant. I'd say you need to apply that to everything. Don't be afraid of discomfort. It's okay to be uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you'll be able to learn more, learn quicker. Failing it's not a bad thing. It's actually a really, really good opportunity for a learning moment. You just have to look for the learning moment in it. And it's never the end of the world, right? So do things that you're uncomfortable with and go.
think that's a great way to end in terms of advice. I don't see any questions coming in. It's just a couple of comments saying that they can relate to some of the advice that you've been given. So since there's no questions, is there anything that you'd like to add, or any last few words, anything we can discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
I've got a question for you, but before I do that, there's just one thing I'd like to share with the audience. If you are an entrepreneur out there and you think you're ready for funding, go to savant.co.za. We've got a call out at the moment. We are actually looking for early stage entrepreneurs to put through that business to put through the program. It's basically, we look at your business, we say this is potentially investable, we polish you up, and then we put you into our funding pipeline on an accelerated basis. So have a look at savant.co.za and click on the Build program. And then my question for you always is, I can't figure out the spelling of Tooways and Tooways to skin a cat.
You're not the first person to ask me that. It's not.
Is it a play on Tooways?
Yes. So a lot of people can't say my name, so then I just say Tooways without the T. And when I started the brand, Tooways with TWO was already taken in terms of someone else. So I was like, wow, okay. I'm gonna go with the play on words, and that's how Tooways to skin a cat came out, and the cat is obviously the chartered accountant part. But yes.
Okay. No, that's fantastic. Okay, but I really like the interviews that you've been having. I've been following the podcast. Everybody, if you're out there, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, it's all there. Some really interesting topics that I think is relevant for a wider audience than just CAs. I mean, I'm not a CA, and I find the stuff really, really appealing. So,
I'm glad you've added value. Thanks, and thanks for putting me on the spot. The show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Thaheer, thanks so much for joining me, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.